Emma Chen disappeared on July 15, 2013, during a family visit to Niagara Falls State Park in New York. The 6-year-old was last seen wearing a pink dress with small flower patterns when she vanished amid the confusion following her father's sudden departure from the tourist area. According to police reports filed that day, Michael Chen, a 38-year-old software engineer from Rochester, had driven his 2 daughters to the popular tourist destination as part of what family members described as a court-ordered visitation. Sarah Chen, Emma's 9-year-old sister, later told investigators that their father instructed both children to wait near the visitor center while he retrieved something from their vehicle. Security footage from the park entrance shows Michael Chen's 2009 Honda Civic leaving the premises at approximately 2:47 p.m., with no children visible in the car. The case began when Sarah Chen approached park security personnel around 3:15 p.m., reporting that her father had not returned and that she could not locate her younger sister. Initial witness statements from that afternoon describe a chaotic scene as dozens of tourists and staff members joined the search for the missing child. Park Ranger Jennifer Martinez, who was on duty that day, recalled in her official report that the massive crowds of summer visitors made the initial search particularly challenging. Michael Chen had recently finalized a contentious separation from his ex-wife, Linda Chen, according to court documents obtained by investigators. The separation proceedings, which began in early 2012, included disputes over custody arrangements and financial support. Linda Chen later told police that Michael had been experiencing significant work-related stress following layoffs at his technology company. She described his behavior in the months leading up to the incident as increasingly unpredictable and distant from the children. Family court records show that Michael Chen was granted supervised visitation rights with his daughters every other weekend. However, Linda Chen had expressed concerns to her attorney about Michael's emotional state, according to legal documents filed 3 weeks before the Niagara Falls incident. The children's maternal grandmother, Patricia Williams, later stated in police interviews that Emma had mentioned being scared of their father during recent visits, though she provided no specific details about why. On the day of the disappearance, security cameras captured Michael Chen arriving at the park with both daughters at 11:23 a.m. Additional footage shows the family walking together toward the main viewing areas, with Emma holding her sister's hand. Park employee David Thompson, who worked at the information desk, remembered seeing the 3 of them around noon when Michael asked for directions to the restroom facilities. The initial police response involved officers from both the New York State Park Police and the Niagara Falls Police Department. Search teams scoured the immediate area around the visitor center and main walkways, while other officers attempted to locate Michael Chen. His vehicle was discovered later that evening in a parking lot, approximately 12 miles from the park, abandoned with the keys still inside. During the first 48 hours following Emma's disappearance, investigators interviewed more than 30 witnesses who had been in the park that afternoon. Several tourists reported seeing a young girl in a pink dress near the gift shop area around 2:30 p.m., but none could definitively identify her as Emma Chen. The Niagara County Sheriff's Department deployed search and rescue teams, including K-9 units, to examine areas beyond the main tourist zones. Michael Chen was located 3 days after the incident at a motel in Buffalo, approximately 25 miles from Niagara Falls. Police reports indicate he was found in an extremely disoriented state and was immediately taken to a local medical facility for evaluation. During initial questioning, Chen reportedly claimed to have no clear memory of events following his arrival at the park. Medical personnel noted signs of severe emotional distress and possible substance use, though toxicology results were never made public. The investigation revealed that Michael Chen had withdrawn $3,200 in cash from his bank account on the morning of July 15th, though he could not explain the purpose of the withdrawal when questioned by detectives. His cellular phone records showed no outgoing calls or text messages after 1:15 p.m. on the day of the disappearance. Linda Chen later told investigators that Michael had never previously taken the children anywhere without informing her of specific plans and return times. Emma's case received extensive media coverage throughout the summer of 2013, with local news stations broadcasting her photograph and description multiple times daily. The National Center for Missing Children issued an official alert, and volunteer search groups organized weekly efforts to examine areas around the Niagara River and surrounding parkland. Despite these efforts, no physical evidence related to Emma's disappearance was recovered during the initial investigation period. Child Protective Services documents show that Sarah Chen was placed in the temporary custody of her maternal grandmother following the incident. The 9-year-old underwent extensive interviews with trained specialists, during which she consistently maintained that she last saw Emma near the visitor center shortly before approaching security for help. Sarah's accounts never varied significantly across multiple interview sessions conducted by different investigators. The case gradually received less media attention as months passed without new developments. Michael Chen was eventually charged with child endangerment and abandonment, receiving a sentence of 18 months in county jail, followed by supervised probation. Court proceedings revealed a pattern of increasingly erratic behavior, including missed workdays and concerning statements to co-workers about feeling overwhelmed by family responsibilities. Linda Chen relocated with Sarah to Pennsylvania in early 2014, seeking privacy and a fresh start away from media attention. In subsequent interviews with cold case investigators, she expressed frustration with what she perceived as insufficient initial search efforts. She maintained that park security procedures were inadequate for handling missing child situations, particularly during peak tourist seasons, when thousands of visitors created crowded conditions. The official case file remained active, but without new leads until 2018, when it was transferred to the New York State Police Cold Case Unit. Detective Lisa Rodriguez was assigned to review all existing evidence and witness statements. Her preliminary assessment identified several areas where additional investigation might prove valuable, including enhanced analysis of security footage and re-interviews with key witnesses who had not been contacted in several years. Throughout this period, Emma's disappearance continued to generate occasional media coverage, particularly around anniversaries of the incident. True crime podcasts and online forums maintained active discussions about the case, though many theories proposed by amateur investigators were not supported by available evidence. The Niagara Falls State Park implemented additional safety protocols following Emma's disappearance, including improved signage and enhanced training for security personnel dealing with missing child reports. By 2020, the case had effectively gone cold despite periodic reviews by investigators. Sarah Chen, now an adult working in social services, occasionally participated in media interviews, encouraging anyone with information to contact authorities. She consistently emphasized her belief that someone in the park that day must have seen something that could provide crucial information about her sister's final moments before disappearing into the crowds of tourists at one of America's most visited natural attractions. 12 years after Emma Chen's disappearance, maintenance workers at Niagara Falls State Park made a discovery that would reopen one of the region's most haunting missing child cases. On March 8, 2025, employees conducting routine inspection work behind the American Falls found a small piece of fabric lodged between rocks in an area rarely accessed by the public. The fragment, measuring approximately 4 inches by 6 inches, appeared to be part of a child's dress with a distinctive pink floral pattern. Park maintenance supervisor Robert Martinez immediately recognized the potential significance of the find and contacted the New York State Park Police. Initial examination by investigators revealed that the fabric matched descriptions of the dress Emma Chen was wearing on the day she vanished in July 2013. The material's preservation was attributed to the unique conditions behind the falls, where constant mist and specific rock formations had protected it from complete deterioration over more than a decade. Detective Lisa Rodriguez of the New York State Police Cold Case Unit received notification of the discovery within hours. Rodriguez had been assigned to the Emma Chen case in 2018 and had conducted periodic reviews of the evidence without identifying new leads. The fabric discovery represented the first physical evidence recovered since the initial investigation 12 years earlier. Forensic analysis was immediately ordered to confirm the material's origin and potential connection to the missing child. Sarah Chen, now 21 years old and working as a family support specialist in Pennsylvania, was contacted by investigators on March 10th. According to police reports, Sarah confirmed that the fabric pattern matched her sister's dress, though she requested time to process the emotional impact of the discovery before providing additional statements. Her current employer, Montgomery County Social Services, granted her emergency leave to cooperate with the renewed investigation. The fabric fragment was transported to the New York State Police Forensic Laboratory in Albany for comprehensive analysis. Preliminary results confirmed that the material was consistent with children's clothing manufactured between 2010 and 2013. Chemical analysis revealed traces of Niagara River water and mineral deposits consistent with prolonged exposure to the fall's environment. DNA extraction attempts were initiated, though investigators cautioned that the extended exposure to water and environmental elements might have compromised genetic material. Media outlets throughout western New York reported extensively on the fabric discovery, prompting renewed public interest in Emma's disappearance. The Buffalo News published a detailed retrospective examining the original investigation and highlighting questions that remained unanswered. Local television stations interviewed former investigators and family members, generating dozens of tips from viewers who claimed to remember details from 2013. Detective Rodriguez coordinated with the FBI's Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team to review all aspects of the case using current investigative techniques. Advanced digital enhancement of security footage from 2013 was ordered, utilizing technology that had not been available during the initial investigation. The enhanced analysis focused on identifying individuals who might have been near Emma during her final documented appearances in the park. Michael Chen was located at a residential facility in Oregon, where he had been living since completing his sentence for child endangerment. Investigators from the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office interviewed Chen on March 15th, accompanied by Detective Rodriguez via video conference. According to police reports, Chen appeared significantly different from his 2013 appearance, showing signs of ongoing health issues and what facility staff described as persistent psychological difficulties. During the March 15th interview, Chen reportedly maintained his previous statements claiming limited memory of events following his departure from Niagara Falls. Medical records obtained by investigators indicated that Chen had been diagnosed with severe depression and anxiety disorders following his arrest in 2013. His treatment history included multiple hospitalizations and ongoing medication management for what doctors classified as trauma-related symptoms. The renewed investigation prompted several former park employees to contact authorities with information they had not previously reported. David Thompson, who had worked at the Visitor Information Desk in 2013, told investigators he remembered additional details about the Chen family's visit. Thompson stated that Emma had appeared unusually quiet during their brief interaction, and that Michael Chen seemed agitated when asking for directions. Jennifer Martinez, the park ranger who had been on duty during Emma's disappearance, provided updated statements about the search procedures used in 2013. Martinez acknowledged that the massive summer crowds had complicated initial search efforts and suggested that current protocols might have produced different results. She emphasized that park staff had followed established procedures, though she admitted that the visitor volume that day had created challenging conditions. Enhanced security footage analysis yielded several previously unnoticed details about the Chen family's movements within the park. Digital specialists identified timestamps showing Emma near the gift shop at 2:33 p.m., approximately 14 minutes before her sister approached security for help. Additional footage showed an unidentified adult male walking in the same area around the same time, though his face was not clearly visible in available camera angles. Sarah Chen agreed to participate in a formal interview with Detective Rodriguez on March 22nd. The session, conducted at Pennsylvania State Police Headquarters, lasted approximately 3 hours and covered details that Sarah might have forgotten or been too young to fully understand in 2013. Sarah's current statements remained consistent with her childhood accounts, though she provided additional context about her father's behavior in the weeks preceding their Niagara Falls visit. According to Sarah's updated statement, Michael Chen had made several concerning comments during previous visits, including references to feeling overwhelmed by his responsibilities. She recalled him mentioning that their mother would be better off handling the children alone, though Sarah emphasized she had not understood the implications of such statements at the time. These details had not been included in her original interviews, which had focused primarily on events from the day of Emma's disappearance. The investigation team expanded to include specialists from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, who reviewed the case using current best practices for long-term missing child investigations. The center's analysts identified several aspects of the original search that could be enhanced using modern techniques, including ground-penetrating radar examination of areas that had not been thoroughly searched in 2013. Linda Chen, Emma's mother, had moved to Arizona following her daughter's disappearance and had maintained limited contact with investigators over the years. Detective Rodriguez contacted Linda on March 25th, requesting her participation in the renewed investigation. Linda agreed to provide updated statements, but requested that interviews be conducted via telephone due to her current health conditions and geographic distance from New York. During her March 30th telephone interview, Linda Chen provided additional background information about Michael's psychological state in the months before Emma's disappearance. She described his increasing isolation from friends and family, missed work obligations, and what she characterized as concerning statements about the children being burdens on his life. Linda emphasized that she had attempted to limit Michael's unsupervised access to the children, but had been constrained by court-ordered visitation requirements. Public response to news coverage of the fabric discovery included numerous tips from individuals claiming to have information about the original incident. The New York State Police established a dedicated tip line and assigned additional personnel to evaluate incoming calls. Most tips were determined to be unrelated to the investigation, though several provided information about suspicious individuals who had been in the park area during July 2013. The Niagara County District Attorney's Office announced on April 5th that prosecutors were reviewing all aspects of the case to determine whether additional charges might be appropriate if new evidence supported different conclusions about Emma's disappearance. District Attorney James Walsh stated that the fabric discovery warranted a complete re-examination of all available evidence and witness statements. Forensic analysis of the fabric fragment continued throughout April, with specialists attempting multiple approaches to extract usable DNA evidence. The New York State Police Crime Laboratory collaborated with federal forensic experts to maximize the potential for recovering genetic material that might provide definitive identification. Preliminary results suggested that limited DNA evidence might be recoverable, though officials cautioned that definitive conclusions would require additional testing time. The investigation also focused on identifying individuals who had been in restricted areas of the park during July 2013. Park maintenance records were reviewed to determine which employees had access to areas behind the American Falls where the fabric was discovered. Several former employees were interviewed to establish their whereabouts and activities during the time period surrounding Emma's disappearance. Sarah Chen returned to New York in late April to participate in additional interviews and to visit the location where the fabric had been found. Accompanied by victim services personnel and Detective Rodriguez, Sarah spent several hours at Niagara Falls State Park, walking through areas where she and Emma had been 12 years earlier. The visit was described by investigators as emotionally difficult, but potentially valuable for helping Sarah recall additional details about that day. The case received national media attention when major news networks picked up the story of the fabric discovery. True crime television programs expressed interest in producing segments about Emma's disappearance, though investigators requested that media outlets avoid broadcasting specific details that might compromise the ongoing investigation. The renewed attention generated additional tips from across the country, though most were determined to be unrelated to the case. As summer approached in 2025, Detective Rodriguez acknowledged that the investigation remained active and that several promising leads were being pursued. The fabric discovery had provided the first tangible evidence in 12 years, offering hope that Emma's fate might finally be determined. However, Rodriguez cautioned that definitive answers would require additional time and careful analysis of all available evidence, emphasizing that the investigation would continue until all possible leads had been thoroughly examined. The breakthrough in Emma Chen's case came on May 15, 2025, when forensic specialists at the New York State Police Crime Laboratory successfully extracted partial DNA from the fabric fragment found behind Niagara Falls. The genetic material, though significantly degraded from 12 years of environmental exposure, provided enough viable markers to confirm that the pink dress piece had belonged to Emma Chen. This confirmation transformed the investigation from a missing child case into a recovery operation focused on determining the exact circumstances surrounding her death. Detective Lisa Rodriguez immediately coordinated with the Niagara County Medical Examiner's Office to establish a formal determination of death, a legal process that had been pending since 2013 due to the complete absence of physical evidence. Dr. Patricia Williams, the county's chief medical examiner, reviewed all available evidence, including the fabric analysis, witness statements, and environmental factors to reach her conclusion. After careful consideration of all materials, Dr. Williams determined that Emma Chen had died on July 15, 2013, the same day she disappeared from Niagara Falls State Park. The official cause of death was listed as drowning, with the manner of death classified as accidental based on the available evidence. Dr. Williams explained in her formal report that the location where the fabric was discovered, combined with the environmental conditions and Emma's age, strongly suggested that the child had fallen into the turbulent waters near the American Falls. The medical examiner noted that survival would have been impossible for a 6-year-old in such conditions, regardless of swimming ability or rescue efforts. Enhanced analysis of park security footage from 2013, utilizing advanced digital processing techniques that had become available by 2025, revealed previously undetected details about Emma's final documented movements within the park. Digital forensic specialists working with federal law enforcement agencies spent weeks processing the original footage through sophisticated enhancement software. The enhanced analysis identified Emma walking alone toward the Prospect Point area at exactly 2:39 p.m., approximately 8 minutes before her sister Sarah approached security personnel to report her missing. The footage showed Emma moving steadily away from the main tourist congregation areas toward sections of the park that featured fewer safety barriers and significantly closer proximity to the Niagara River. Additional enhanced footage revealed that Emma appeared to be following a path that would lead toward viewing areas with minimal supervision and inadequate protection from water access points. These details had been impossible to detect using the digital enhancement technology available during the original 2013 investigation. The investigation team conducted extensive interviews with retired park employees who had worked at Niagara Falls during the summer of 2013. Former maintenance worker Charles Davidson, who had left park employment in 2016 due to health issues, provided crucial information about specific areas where a small child might have gained unauthorized access to dangerous sections near the river. Davidson explained that several locations along the park's perimeter had insufficient barriers to prevent someone of Emma's size from reaching areas with immediate proximity to fast-moving water. According to Davidson's detailed statement to investigators, park management had been aware of potential safety concerns in certain areas, but had prioritized maintaining scenic viewing opportunities over installing additional protective barriers. Davidson specifically identified 3 locations where children could potentially access dangerous areas, including the section where Emma's fabric fragment was ultimately discovered 12 years later. His testimony provided investigators with specific search areas that had not been thoroughly examined during the original recovery efforts. Sarah Chen was formally notified of the DNA confirmation results during a scheduled meeting with Detective Rodriguez and Victim Services personnel on May 20th. According to official police reports, Sarah requested additional time to process the emotional impact of the information before making any public statements or participating in media interviews. Victim Services personnel provided ongoing psychological support as Sarah worked through the complex emotions associated with finally learning her sister's fate after 12 years of uncertainty and hope. During subsequent interviews, Sarah described the DNA confirmation as bringing simultaneous feelings of closure and renewed grief. She explained to investigators that part of her had maintained hope that Emma might still be alive somewhere, despite the logical understanding that such an outcome was highly unlikely after so many years. The definitive confirmation of Emma's death forced Sarah to confront emotions she had been suppressing since childhood, while also providing the closure she needed to move forward with her life. Michael Chen was transported from his residential facility in Oregon to New York State, under proper medical supervision for additional questioning following the DNA confirmation. The interview session, conducted at New York State Police Headquarters on May 25th, was recorded using both audio and video equipment and lasted approximately 4 hours with multiple breaks. Chen's court-appointed attorney, who had been representing him since his original conviction, was present throughout the entire session, along with a mental health professional, due to Chen's documented psychological conditions. According to detailed police reports from the May 25th interview, Chen maintained his previous statements about having no specific or clear memory of events that occurred after leaving his daughters at the visitor center. When presented with photographs of the fabric fragment and informed of the DNA confirmation linking it to Emma, Chen reportedly became severely emotionally distressed and required medical attention. The interview was suspended twice due to what attending medical personnel described as acute anxiety reactions and panic episodes. Chen's attending physician from the Oregon facility had provided investigators with comprehensive medical records documenting his ongoing treatment for severe depression, anxiety disorders, and what specialists had diagnosed as trauma-related psychological symptoms. The medical documentation indicated that Chen had been hospitalized multiple times since 2013 for mental health crises and had required continuous medication management. His treating psychiatrist noted in official records that Chen appeared to experience genuine memory gaps related to traumatic events, though the exact nature and extent of these gaps remained unclear. The investigation team expanded their focus to examine whether additional criminal charges beyond the original child endangerment conviction might be appropriate, given the new evidence and confirmed death determination. Niagara County prosecutors spent several weeks reviewing New York State statutes regarding parental responsibility, child welfare, and criminally negligent homicide to determine if enhanced charges could be legally supported. Legal experts consulted during this process noted that proving criminal intent or negligence would require evidence demonstrating that Chen deliberately placed Emma in danger beyond simply abandoning both children. District Attorney James Walsh announced on June 3rd that his office would be filing additional charges of criminally negligent homicide against Michael Chen. Walsh explained during a press conference that the new evidence, combined with expert testimony about the dangerous conditions at the park, supported the conclusion that Chen's decision to abandon his children in an unsupervised environment directly contributed to Emma's death. The enhanced charges carried significantly more severe penalties than the original child endangerment conviction. Park engineering specialists and water safety experts were brought in to conduct detailed examinations of areas where Emma's remains might have entered the water system following her fall. The location where the fabric fragment was discovered provided crucial scientific information about water flow patterns, seasonal variations in current strength, and the probability of additional evidence being present in similar areas downstream. This analysis helped investigators understand the likely path Emma's body had taken through the water system over the past 12 years. Specialized underwater search teams using advanced sonar equipment, underwater cameras, and remotely operated vehicles began examining sections of the Niagara River that had not been thoroughly searched during the original 2013 investigation. The search efforts were coordinated with the U.S. Coast Guard and conducted during periods of reduced water flow to maximize visibility and safety for recovery personnel. These searches focused on areas identified by water flow analysis as most likely to contain additional physical evidence. Linda Chen traveled from her current residence in Arizona to New York for the first time since relocating following Emma's disappearance in 2013. She participated in a comprehensive formal interview with investigators on June 2nd, providing additional background information about Emma's swimming abilities, her comfort level around water, and any previous experiences with water-related activities. Linda confirmed that Emma had been afraid of deep water and was not a strong swimmer, making accidental drowning the most likely outcome if she had fallen into the river. During her interview, Linda provided investigators with detailed information about Emma's personality, behavior patterns, and tendency to wander when unsupervised. She explained that Emma had always been curious about her surroundings, but had generally followed safety instructions when properly supervised. Linda emphasized that Emma would not have intentionally approached dangerous areas if she had understood the risks involved, suggesting that her movement toward the water was likely the result of childish curiosity, rather than deliberate risk-taking behavior. The investigation team consulted with nationally recognized experts in water dynamics, body recovery, and forensic hydrology to better understand the specific conditions Emma would have encountered if she entered the Niagara River. Dr. James Mitchell, a forensic hydrologist from the University at Buffalo with extensive experience in water-related death investigations, provided detailed analysis of the environmental factors present on July 15, 2013. Mitchell's expert opinion supported the conclusion that survival would have been impossible for a 6-year-old child, given the water temperature, current velocity, and turbulence levels. Dr. Mitchell's analysis revealed that water temperatures in the Niagara River during mid-July typically range between 65 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit, which would have induced rapid hypothermia in a child of Emma's size. Combined with the extremely powerful currents generated by the falls, estimated at speeds exceeding 20 miles per hour in certain areas, the conditions would have been immediately fatal. Mitchell's report concluded that Emma's death would have occurred within minutes of entering the water, providing some comfort to family members concerned about potential suffering. Search efforts resumed with renewed intensity in June 2025, focusing specifically on areas downstream from the location where the fabric fragment had been discovered. The search teams utilized advanced sonar equipment, underwater robotics, and specialized diving personnel trained in body recovery operations. These searches were conducted during carefully planned periods when water levels were at their lowest annual points, maximizing visibility and access to areas that are typically submerged throughout most of the year. On June 18th, search teams made a significant discovery approximately 200 meters downstream from the original fabric find site. Small bone fragments, lodged between rocks in a protected area behind the Bridal Veil Falls, were carefully recovered by specialist personnel using precise excavation techniques. The fragments were immediately transported to the State Forensic Laboratory for analysis, with chain of custody procedures strictly maintained throughout the recovery and transportation process. Dr. Patricia Williams conducted comprehensive forensic analysis of the recovered bone fragments using multiple scientific methods, including comparative anatomy, chemical composition analysis, and microscopic examination. The testing process required several weeks to complete due to the degraded condition of the specimens and the need for multiple confirmatory tests. After extensive analysis, Dr. Williams confirmed through various scientific methods that the bone fragments were consistent with a child of Emma's age, size, and physical characteristics. The forensic examination revealed no signs of trauma, fractures, or other indicators that would suggest anything other than accidental drowning, followed by natural environmental processes. Dr. Williams noted in her detailed report that the bone fragments showed signs of prolonged exposure to water, mineral deposits, and natural elements entirely consistent with the 12-year time frame since Emma's disappearance. The condition and location of the fragments supported the conclusion that Emma's body had been naturally moved by water currents to areas where recovery had been impossible, using search techniques available in 2013. The bone fragment discovery prompted additional intensive searches of areas previously considered completely inaccessible to recovery teams. Working in coordination with park engineers and water management specialists, recovery teams identified several additional locations where Emma's remains might have been deposited by water currents over the intervening 12 years. These searches continued throughout July 2025, utilizing the most advanced underwater search technology available and requiring careful coordination with park operations to minimize disruption to tourist activities. The expanded search efforts resulted in the recovery of additional small bone fragments and several personal items that forensic specialists were able to confirm belonged to Emma through various scientific methods. Among the recovered items were small pieces of jewelry that Emma Chen was able to positively identify as belonging to her daughter, including a small bracelet with Emma's name engraved on a metal plate. These additional discoveries provided further confirmation of the investigation's conclusions, while offering family members tangible connections to Emma's memory. Sarah Chen made her first comprehensive public statement following the recovery of Emma's remains during a carefully planned press conference held on July 20, 2025. The event was organized by the New York State Police in coordination with victim services personnel and attracted significant media attention from regional and national news outlets. Sarah expressed profound gratitude to investigators for their continued efforts over 12 years and described feeling relief at finally knowing her sister's fate with certainty. During the press conference, Sarah announced her intention to establish a charitable foundation focused on improving safety protocols at tourist attractions and providing support services for families dealing with missing children cases. She explained that her professional experience in social services, combined with her personal understanding of family tragedy, had motivated her to channel her grief into advocacy work that might prevent similar tragedies. The foundation would be named the Emma Chen Children's Safety Foundation and would begin operations following the conclusion of legal proceedings. Sarah emphasized during her public statement that her sister's death had been accidental, but potentially preventable with enhanced safety measures, better supervision protocols, and improved emergency response procedures. She called for tourist attractions across the country to review their safety protocols and consider implementing enhanced measures to protect children and families. Sarah also announced her intention to work with legislative representatives to promote laws requiring improved safety standards at recreational facilities that serve families with young children. The Niagara Falls State Park Administration responded to the case resolution by announcing comprehensive reviews of all safety protocols and emergency procedures. Park Superintendent Maria Rodriguez outlined detailed plans for enhanced protective barriers in areas where children might potentially access dangerous zones, significantly improved training programs for security personnel, and completely updated emergency response procedures for missing child incidents. The proposed changes represented the most extensive safety overhaul in the park's history and were scheduled for full implementation before the beginning of the 2026 tourist season. Michael Chen's legal situation became significantly more complex following the recovery of Emma's remains and the filing of enhanced criminal charges. Prosecutors argued that the criminally negligent homicide charges were appropriate because Chen's decision to abandon both children in a dangerous environment without proper supervision directly contributed to Emma's death. The prosecution maintained that while Emma's drowning was accidental, Chen's actions created the circumstances that made her death possible and therefore constituted criminal negligence under New York state law. Chen's defense attorney requested comprehensive mental health evaluations to determine his current competency, to stand trial on the enhanced charges, and to establish his mental state at the time of the original incident. The defense strategy focused on Chen's documented psychological conditions and argued that his mental health issues had impaired his judgment and decision-making abilities. Medical experts testified that Chen's depression and anxiety disorders may have significantly affected his parental judgment and risk assessment capabilities. The trial proceedings began in October 2025, attracting significant media attention and public interest throughout Western New York. Prosecutors presented evidence demonstrating that Michael Chen's deliberate abandonment of his daughters constituted criminal negligence that directly resulted in Emma's death. The prosecution argued that any reasonable parent would have understood the dangers present at Niagara Falls, and that leaving young children unsupervised in such an environment represented a criminally negligent disregard for their safety and welfare. The defense team argued that Chen's severe mental health conditions at the time of the incident had substantially impaired his judgment and that Emma's death was a tragic accident rather than the result of criminally negligent behavior. Defense experts testified about the effects of depression and anxiety on parental decision-making and argued that Chen's actions, while deeply regrettable, did not rise to the level of criminal negligence. The defense emphasized Chen's lack of intent to harm his children and his ongoing psychological suffering since the incident. Sarah Chen provided crucial testimony during the trial, describing her memories of the day Emma disappeared and detailing the long-term impact of losing her sister on her life and development. Her testimony focused on family dynamics leading up to the Niagara Falls visit, her observations of her father's increasingly erratic behavior, and her perspective on the events of July 15, 2013. Sarah's testimony was considered essential in establishing the circumstances that led to Emma being left unsupervised in a dangerous environment. The jury deliberated for 3 days before reaching their verdict on the criminally negligent homicide charge. After careful consideration of all evidence and expert testimony, Michael Chen was found guilty and sentenced to 4 to 12 years in state prison, with credit applied for time already served on his original child endangerment conviction. Judge Robert Martinez stated during the sentencing hearing that while Emma's death was ultimately accidental, Chen's actions in abandoning his children had created the specific conditions that made her death possible. Emma Chen was finally laid to rest on November 15, 2025, during a private ceremony attended by family members, close friends, and several investigators who had worked tirelessly on her case over the years. The service was held at a peaceful cemetery in Pennsylvania, near the community where Sarah and Linda Chen had built new lives following the 2013 tragedy. Park rangers from Niagara Falls served as honorary pallbearers, acknowledging their ongoing commitment to the search efforts that had finally brought Emma home to her family. The Emma Chen Children's Safety Foundation officially began operations in December 2025, with initial funding provided through community donations, corporate sponsorships, and grants from child welfare organizations. The foundation's mission focuses on improving safety protocols at recreational facilities nationwide and providing comprehensive support services for families dealing with missing children cases. Sarah Chen serves as the foundation's executive director, utilizing her professional experience in social services and her personal understanding of family tragedy to guide the organization's advocacy efforts and support programs. Detective Lisa Rodriguez received formal commendation from the New York State Police leadership for her exceptional work on Emma's case, particularly her persistence in pursuing new investigative leads, even when the case appeared completely cold. Rodriguez emphasized that the successful resolution was possible only because of significant advances in forensic technology and the dedicated collaborative efforts of multiple law enforcement agencies over 13 years. She noted that Emma's case demonstrated the critical importance of never abandoning missing children investigations, regardless of how much time has passed or how remote the chances of resolution may appear.